Hello, this is Kemi Olunloyo. Today is March the 12th, 2015, and many Nigerians woke up on Twitter at HNN Africa, my handle for my news website, to read tweets after tweets that I put out to the whole country regarding my experience as a child in child abuse, torture, ritualism, and more. It takes a lot for me to put that kind of stuff out. It really does. I was raised till I was 14 years old, till I left Nigeria, by a father and a mother who taught us to be transparent and who taught us to always tell the truth and never steal. Throughout my 37 years abroad, I have never stolen anything, become part of a drug ring, prostitution, or selling of anything that's illegal. No drugs, nothing. I'm a pharmacist, a journalist, and a PR specialist, an award-winning person in all my professions, and also a self-made community and gun violence activist. I really rarely lie. People think I'm too honest and too transparent. I don't have any friends. I don't make friends on the ground. I make friends on social media, and that's it. One of the reasons I don't make friends is because I'm too honest. If you tell me something, I can't keep a secret. I'll tell somebody else. And that's why I usually tell people, don't tell me anything that's important that you don't want heard. That's just the way I was built, the way I was born, and the way I am. I don't want anyone to have any kind of confidentiality in me. If anything happens to me in my life, I will tell you about it. So please don't tell me anything you don't want out. Last year, I had a fight with my sister from Kemi Olunloyo. I'm 4 years older than her. She assaulted me and her son got into the assault as well. Many of you read it. And I disclosed the 40-year violent history of my sister. A lot of people were not happy, but I care less about a lot of people. I told the truth, and that's what it is. I'm not a fan of family secrets. This is Daddy Dearest, an audio documentary, an audio book about my experience with my father, Victor Malu, 80 years old, April 14th, 2015. 80 years as a mathematician, a brilliant person, a respectable elderly statesman, known to all. On the 80th birthday of a public figure, in Nigeria, most of the time, people come and visit them. There's a big party. A lot of people show up. But guess what? It's not going to be the same here. There is no one coming into our compound. My father never lives here anymore. He rarely is here anymore. He's living with his girlfriend, his junior wife, whatever you want to call Ronke. He went to London, England for treatment. He came back and moved in with her. Did not come home one time to say, I'm back. Whatever it is, he now claims they've abandoned him. They don't cook. There's nobody there. We hear a lot. The whole destruction of a family that has to do with another wife is so rampant in Nigeria. Yes, rampant, because Ronke was a classmate to my sister in the days when we used to go to school in the University of Ibadan. We were neighbors with the Shonaikes, and Ronke was the oldest in that family, if I believe. To say that she's going to be my father's wife one day, it was almost impossible for me to think that. But it did happen. The tales of torture, ritualism, women, government secrets, and more is what this audiobook is about. Daddy Dearest is a dedication to my 80-year-old father from all of us. I am the biographer here, and you'll hear my voice in all 5 chapters. This is chapter 1. Daddy Dearest. How my father manipulated everybody in the family to get his way. How he used rituals to get powerful by using his family. Things that they don't want you to hear. My father will take members of the families to babalawos, ritualists, Idonre, Ibefun, all these places. Ibefun is supposedly a city, town, village full of ritualists. Prominent public figures go there to do rituals of all kinds. From, oh, let me win the elections, to, oh, let me kill that person, to everything and anything I heard. My son, my oldest son, Annie, who is now 28 in America, who lived a lifelong problem with autism, violence, and all. Until my son came here, he was fine at 2 years old. He came for a year, and my 3-year-old son was taken to ritualists. For some reason or another, my mother had no idea that they went there. Ronke took them. They claimed that my son couldn't talk. They claimed everything. But my son came back. He was profoundly autistic. He could not, well, autism is the name that the white doctors in America and the Western doctors will call it. Couldn't talk, couldn't do anything. Couldn't relate. I went through a lifelong of special needs. And then by the time he was 12, he was beating me, severely injuring me, tearing up everything apart in our house. Everything changed. It was spiritual. Next time he came home, my mother said, let him come home so that we can take care of him. It was too much. I was pregnant with my child, KJ. He would kill me. He will slash me to the ground, flatten my stomach. What could I do? It was too violent. Came back, my dad moved in with Ronke and said, I'm not living in this house with a crazy child. He ran. But then he took my child to a ritualist. Was he responsible? He didn't want to take responsibility of my son. He ran away. 2006, my dad had Annie handcuffed while we came home from America. Asked one of his PAs to beat up my son. I got involved. The guy ended up beating me up. This same guy, 10 years later, I actually threw an item in his face because he was very, very rude to me and he was about to assault me. And for once, I got my revenge. The torture my father has put us through in this family begins in chapter 2 of Daddy Dearest. I'm Kemi Olunloyo, the only name I've ever had, because some fools think that I'm attaching to his name. Fanny Coyote, Okoya Thomas, Olunloyo Olunloyo are hyphenated names, but most Nigerians are illiterates, and so they don't know what a hyphenated name is. So they don't understand why I'm Kemi Olunloyo. Or why Femi is Fanny Coyote. Or why Molade is Okoya Thomas. It's hyphenated. And I've never been married, so that remains the only name I know. We'll see you in chapter 2, Daddy Dearest. The story of Governor Victor Malu and how he tortured and abused his family from his addiction to rituals. Hello, this is Kemi Olunloyo, and this is chapter 2 of Daddy Dearest, the story of my father, Victor Malu and how he tortured and abused our family from our childhood with rituals and manipulation. Here in chapter 2, I'm going to start with when we were young. When I was 12 years old, we were living in University of Ibadan. There was a big life-changing event where my father brought a kid into our house. The kid was also 12 years old. He was a boy, and his name was Binga. He actually had another name, and they renamed him Binga. When he came, they told us that he was my father's son, that my father had a child with someone else outside the marriage, and that Binga was born the same year I was born, May 64, while I was born in August 64. Meaning what? That our father had an affair with someone while my mother was pregnant with me. Binga became a member of our family. We were told to welcome him. We were all young. The oldest in the family was 13, my sister Yemi, and I was 12. And then the others were younger. And from there, he started living with us. We started going to school together. From there, we moved to Agodi, where my dad became another member of another department in the government. We lived in Agodi. The spot we live in now is where the National Communications Commission is, NCC, I believe, behind MITV. And the house is right there. It's a government office now. During the times we live in Agodi, some horrible, horrifying things happened. This young boy, Binga, he came from the area of Bere and the areas of the local hoods in Ibadan. Illiterate area, lived with his grandmother, was mostly on the street, worked on the street, and was probably a tout or something. Couldn't speak English, and he had to start going to school with us. The transformation that Binga had was incredible. My mother raised him. He started speaking English. He couldn't pronounce a lot of words. My father would slap him. My father would punch him. In front of us, I would start crying. My other siblings will start crying. My dad will punch him so bad in the face that he'll be bleeding. My mom will run out and say, "Why are you hurting the kid? Why?" They get into fights. Then my mother would drive out of the house, take the boy with him. He started abusing us emotionally the way he abused Binga. One day Binga came from school. He stole 2 pens, 2 biros as they call it. How much is a pen? My father took Binga and he tied him to the ceiling fan. And then he turned the fan on. My dad was insane. And Binga would swirl round and round and round and round the fan until he broke off the rope and he fell and hurt himself and broke his bones. What kind of father is that? Do you think we can live through this all our lives and not say anything? I don't see the world as that. It affected me emotionally, how my father treated Binga. My grandmother lived with us, my maternal grandmother. My mom's mom was taking care of a baby, my brother Ayobami. He was born in 1977 in April. And Mama will cry and cry and cry and say, "I can't stand it, stop it, stop it." One day Mama took Ayobami and left, went to live with my uncle. But we were still there watching all this stuff. Why was my dad doing this? People were saying that my grandmother had something to do with it. No one knew that my dad and my grandmother was in a collaboration of rituals. A ritual that will say that it was my mom causing it to happen. But of course the ritual did not work that way. It was my dad assaulting the boy. When Dad plugged the iron, I did not believe what I saw. My father, Victor Malu, took the iron and burned Binga in the back in 3 places. If I open my brother's back now, I should see 3 triangles on his back. His wife, Ayo, and his children can check that. They live in Lagos. His 50 years are going on 51 and is a successful businessman. He has no communications with my father. Binga did not attend my grandmother's funeral with everybody there and all the dignitaries. And he did not attend my father's birthdays, 70th, 75th, whatever. Binga doesn't talk to my father. Yes, he was born outside, but he was a child. We were 12, 13. Everything they did to Binga, Binga got the physical pain and abuse. I got the emotional pain and abuse. The kind of person I am, I'm very friendly. I made friends with kids in the ward in usage when I had my kidney problem. Lived in UC for 6 months. I touched all the patients. Some kids had gangrene and sores. I would touch it. I'll play with them. I liked Binga. He was my new brother. But I didn't like what my dad was doing to him. My dad was trying to kill him. But I couldn't figure it out. Neither did my mom. Then one morning, my father took Binga. Decided to break both his hands. Yes, my father broke my brother's hands. His bones were broken. You had to see his hands twisted. He was rushed to UCH. When he got to UCH, my father would lie and say he fell or something. My mother would be quiet. My mother was brainwashed very early in this relationship by my grandmother. They used influences and spiritual rituals to control my mother. However, I was watching. I'm going to be 51 myself. And what happened next? They were putting pins inside Binga's hands to reconstruct the bones that were twisted and broken. My mother will take Binga to physiotherapy in usage every week, every 2 days, every 3 days. My father would lie. He was a minister, commissioner. He was a government official, and no one knew that he was also a child abuser and a wicked killer. That was my father, Victor Malu. And don't you tell me that it's my father still. And don't you tell me I shouldn't wash my laundry dirty outside. And don't you tell me anything unless you lived it. I'm Kemi Olunloyo. I lived it with Binga. I haven't spoken to him for quite a few years when I was in Canada. That was the last time. He lives somewhere in Lekki, and I will look for him. He's very bitter about everything. His mother became a girlfriend to my dad on the side. And what happened next will shock you in chapter 3. I'm Kemi Olunloyo, and this is Chapter 3 of Daddy Dearest, an audiobook about my father, Victor Malu, and how he meted abuse into our family very early. Rituals, abuse, and emotional trauma. In this chapter, you're going to hear a story that's very tragic. It starts with General Obasanjo. He had appointed my dad as the executive secretary of the National Science and Technology Development Agency, NSTDA, which will be the Ministry of Science and Technology today. And that executive secretary position will mimic a minister. My father just got an executive position, and we were moving to Lagos. At that time, Lagos was like a big thing. These are the days when Nigeria had dollar in pounds in naira, and nairas were higher than the foreign currency. There was an oil boom. Everybody had money. People were comfortable. A whole chicken was 50 naira. Today, a whole chicken is about 1,500 naira. However, going to Lagos was the big thing. You saw the beach. You enjoyed all that stuff. We were on our way to a funeral. Believe it or not, the funeral was that of the George family, who were our relatives. Auntie George had just married my uncle Kemi Olunloyo, and Auntie dad died. So it was a celebratory funeral, the ones where you eat, you drink, you wear ashwebi. So my mother dressed everybody 10 o'clock in the morning. We were supposed to leave by 11. My dad told my mother that he was going to the ministry or something to go do something before we traveled in the office. My dad did not come back till almost 6 o'clock. We waited and waited and waited. I was 13. My brother Tayo was 8. He's going to be 45 next week, April 1st. However, when Dad arrived, he now told my mom to get in the car with the kids. My mom cooked a lot of stews, soups, and things that we're going to eat in Lagos, as we're going to stay in a hotel. We were staying in Federal Palace Hotel at the time, since our house in Ikoyi wasn't ready. The federal government house allotted to us. But she took some soups and things. We packed them in the boot of the car, and we got inside. My mom said we should not travel that night. My dad insisted. We didn't turn the radio on. We had 2 cars. In the first car, myself, my brother Tyre, 8 years old, my dad. In the second car, my mom, my sisters. We were divided into 2. However, something disturbing happened. Where was my father all day? It wasn't until after the accident that happened that we found out that my dad was not even at the ministry or doing anything. He was in a woman's house having sex all day long. And that's why we were delayed going to Lagos. My father is the one I blame today for the accident that changed our family. What happened next? We got on Ikorodu Road. There was a riot going on. Ali must go. Students in Unilag were fighting over tuition increases. They were burning cars on Ikorodu Road. They were killing people. They were attacking people. A federal government car comes, they'll burn it up and beat up everybody in there. We had no idea what was in front of us. We drove right into the riot. Somebody screamed, "Oh, look, CVU!" Government cars started with CVU and FGN plates. The CVU cars, they usually had an army collar. And what happened next? Our car was stoned. Tayo was stoned in the head. Till today, there's a huge hole in his head. Tayo was unconscious. Blood was gushing out like a shower on his head. He was sitting down in the car. And I saw one guy went to the, oh my God, he went straight to the gas tank, petrol tank, and he struck a match into it. Boom, the car exploded. As I looked into the fire, I saw Tayo sitting in there. A whole bunch of guys just grabbed me. I was naked. Maybe they were going to rape me next. I don't know. But I told the story on my 50th birthday. I was naked. I was 13 years old in the middle of Ikorodu Road when a guy grabbed me and ran away with me. By the time we got to where he ran away from, a couple of houses on the side roads, he gave me to a woman in the house. There was bodily injuries all over me because I was thrown from the car to start with on the, sidewalk and things. The woman cleaned me up, washed me, put clothes on me, and we sat down watching all the riots on TV. We were all separated from my family. The last thing I saw was Tyre bleeding heavily in a burning car. I think I saw my dad running up and down, 42 years old, in the smoke, trying to look for his children. I felt sorry for my dad, but I never thought I'll see him again. It was the worst night. April 28th, 1978. My brother Ayobami was the baby in the family. My late brother Oyeleke was not even born yet anyway, because he would have been born in 1982. But at the time Oyeleke was not born, Ayobami was just a baby, 6 months, and he did not go with us. Remember, my grandmother had already left the house because of all the abuse she witnessed. So she kept the baby and she was living with my uncle. It was a horrible night. It was horrifying. I want to cry, but I can't cry anymore. What happened next would be very, very sad, very, very tragic. As my picture came up on television, Lagos television, that I was missing, the family that rescued me now took me to the hospital where I was treated. In that hospital is the famous part you hear about. I was lying down next to a woman. The woman's name, Mrs. Funlayo Kuti. She had just either been discharged from that room or she was, I don't know. Everything's so vivid, but it was just that week we got there. She either had left that room or she died or she was there. I don't even remember. But Fela's mom was in that room because I remember the singer coming into the room and his mother had died and they had taken her to the morgue downstairs. There was a lot of things that I went through. My brother had a head injury. Some people think I was the one that had a head injury. It was my brother. And that's also wrong in some Wikipedia profiles and stuff. That's why that was trashed by Wikipedia. It was my brother. My brother's head was dented. And he was rushed to Igbobi Hospital. By the time he got to Igbobi, he was rushed to Luth. And it was a team of Professor Ojikutu and Professor Adadevor, Professor Babatunde Kwaku Adadevor and Professor Ojikutu, neurosurgeons, and the Vice Chancellor of University of Lagos, that performed the surgery that saved Tayo Olunloyo. Tayo lived, but he was in a coma for 30-something days. When he woke up, he was singing a song as he was the ring bearer of my uncle's wedding about a week before that. He had brain damage, significant. President Obasanjo gave my family money to travel abroad with him. My mother traveled almost 16 countries, different therapies, acupuncture, China, Hong Kong, England. But we were going to be told that Tayo will never walk again. He had lost the part of his brain that controls walking. He lost a lot. As of that time, his livelihood ended. He could no longer walk. When he came back to Nigeria, he started schooling. He did not like schooling outside on a wheelchair. Homeschool started. It didn't work out with some teachers. It was frustrating. A child that left a house walking came back to Ibadan. Couldn't walk anymore on a wheelchair. Be carried in the bathroom. Be carried everywhere. By 10, Tayo stopped going to school. And we tried to educate him at home with different things. By the time he became 15, 16, 17, a teenager, my grandmother started boasting all over town that she was behind it. That she was behind Tayo's accident to give my father the power that he needed to conquer everybody in the family. So if you can be the mother of someone and you do rituals to give him a power by using their child, you don't need to be on this earth. That's what my grandmother boasted. Well, let's go on chapter 4. It gets deeper. Tayo is now disabled. Today, Tayo is going to be 45 April 1st. He has seizures every night. I have to wake up and rescue him in the seizure. I thank God I'm a pharmacist. I have to fan him. I have to do a lot as he foams in the mouth. He has lost complete use of his left hand. While Tayo is here suffering, my father is living with Ronke, the junior wife. He goes abroad for medical treatment. I saved him. I rushed him to the hospital in October. He was about to die. His blood pressure was 160/100. I drove the government vehicle through environmental. Saved my father's life. And what did my father say? He actually said I tried to poison him. He's going into dementia phases, remembering things that didn't happen or even forgetting the things that happened. Comes back from London, doesn't come home, goes straight to Ronke's house. He forgot Tyre here. Didn't leave anything for Tyre. No money for food, no money for the generator, no money for the workers, nothing. We don't have anything overnight now. It's like we literally try with Tyre. He goes to an acupuncturist now to get a better quality of life. I give him vitamins. And I bring him to my room to teach him the internet. He has everything you can ever imagine in gadgets. My sisters buy him things. He has a Z10 BlackBerry. And I teach him how to use the internet, even though he's lost complete use of his left hands now. That came gradually. Tyre suffers every day. And we just thank God. Every time President Obasanjo comes into this house, he walks right to Tyre's room to see Tyre. Because no one can forget April 28th, 1978. I know you're saying, yeah, President Obasanjo was involved in also Fela's mother's death a week before that. True. He wouldn't forget that April, that month in 1978. Lots of things happened. It was a crazy time. Chapter 4 next. Hi, I'm Kemi Olunloyo, and welcome to Chapter 4 of Daddy Dearest, an audiobook of my father, Victor Malu, on his 80th birthday, remembering the times and lives and moments that he put us through and how we remember him in the world of ritualism, torture, and more. In Chapter 3, told you about Tyre, my brother. Yes, he will be 45. And he's really suffering. But he's trying. Here in Chapter 4, I'm going to tell you that Tyre continued to live. I was in America. And in 1990, something horrible happened. My grandmother was still living in a house in Malete when one day, she went outside at dawn. She took some black stuff that looked like poop, something that looked like black soap poop or something, and she put it on the handles of my mother's car outside. My brother Shola saw it. Shola is after me. Today, Shola is 48 years old. He lives in America. He's a professional chef and a celebrity one at most. If you Google Shola Olunloyo, Shola, you'll see his work. Shola was in high school. He went to Government College Ibadan and then King's College Lagos. He now saw all the stuff that my grandmother put there, called my mom. It was something ritualistic. Told my mom what happened. Mom, look, Elijah put this in the car. When my father heard that, he went upstairs to tell Mom. My father took Shola and slapped the living daylights out of him. Slapped him so hard that his neck was almost broken. I just suddenly got a call in America. I was 20 years old in 1985, January. My mother called me that I should look for a school for Shola, a high school, that he's coming to America. What happened? Someone's Government College and King's College, and you remove them from good schools like that, and they come to America for what? I had to find him a school. I enrolled my brother in Penn Center, a high school in Philadelphia. He came and he started going to school. He was accepted at Drexel University, one of the best universities in America. He went there to study engineering, but later on he left and wanted to be a chef. He went to cooking school in France, came back, and today the rest is history. You can check him out at Studio Kitchen. Google Studio Kitchen. That's my brother, that's his work, all the food. But after that slap that was heard across the world, Shola has not called my father one time since 1985. He has not been back to Nigeria since 1985, 30 years. When my mother is talking to Shola on the phone, my father asks her to talk to Shola and say hi. That's the only way he can talk to him. Shola will never forgive my dad for what he did because of his mother. He lost it again there. My father lost another child to his influence of ritualism and hatred. Shola hasn't been back. That's the end of Shola's part of the story and documentary. He's number 3 in the family from my mom. By 1986, 87, 88, 89, my sister Funke, now special advisor to the governor on education, Funke Omitowoju, got married. She's divorced now by 15 years. That's why she's Funke Olunloyo again. She works for Governor Ajimobi. Funke was in NYSC in the northern part of Nigeria. She went to Ahmadu Bello. A letter was written to her. We found the letter in 2015. A letter that was meant to be found in a heap of dirty stuff. This letter detailed some event that happened in this house in Molete. My grandmother's room was exterminated. What they found in her room was a lot. The stuff that was found in my grandmother's room, I can't begin to tell you. I can't begin to tell you what we saw. My dad detailed charms. He detailed flying dresses. He detailed coffins. He detailed all the horrible things that his mother was keeping in the room, was harboring, and was doing rituals with. The sort of letter that my father wrote my sister at the NYSC, I'm looking for that letter so I can read it out in this documentary. That letter was the sort of letter that everybody must see, that everybody must read. At the end of the letter, my father wrote, "We are now free." The letter was disturbing. You would think in that letter my father was happy that the bondage he was put through by his own mother, Alaja Tejumala Olunloyo, was over. Here's the letter. Miss Funke Olunloyo, Federal Polytechnic Bida, NYSC Camp. It was written October 6, 1991. Dear Funke, here is your asthma inhaler, some money, and a letter from Shegun. That's Uncle Shegun Olunloyo, my uncle, who was a lecturer in Unilag, very popular with the students. A letter from Shegun to assist you in your career. There has been high drama at home. We have broken into all the remaining rooms downstairs. In Alaja and Busaya's next door room, we found not less than 100 different kinds of sizes of charms, swords, flying dresses, coffins, shigidis, some kind of ritual thing, poisons, soaps, etc., etc. We called in experts in Christianity, Islam, and Ifa. We burned, buried, and sank some things into fast-flowing rivers after prayers and other rituals. We exhibited everything to Adebisi, Chief Eniade, Chief Adedakbo. Many of these people are dead, but these were prominent people in Ibadan. Duro Akbankba, who's my uncle, he's dead too. He's my aunt's husband. Busayo, Bioye, my cousins. Tone, my uncle's wife. Duni Olunloyo, my cousin. Folake's sister. The chief imam of Ibadan in Okeare. 6 other alfas and imams. Chief Yemi Akinyemi, my uncle. And 1 or 2 others like Larry Adeyemo and Christian pastors. Your uncle Biodun Olunloyo, that's Folake and Yomi's father, is getting rapidly out of his mind. So is Bisi Akmankpa, my father's sister. The 2 rooms are all on the ground floor, and they're totally cleaned of all the personal effects. The wardrobes are in the backyard, and the few clothes are in bundles. They are all gotten rid of. The final battle is on. We are now free. Cheers, Omalulu Olunloyo. This is the letter my dad wrote to my sister about what they found in my grandmother's room in this house. Rituals. But after all that, in 1991, she was kicked away from the house, and my father got her a house in Scout Camp where she would live till she died. After all that, years later, my father joined in my father joined back into the ritualism. The rituals that started when my father married my mother. The rituals where he said we're now free. On this letter, I didn't know the details. I was called in America and told what happened here. But reading this letter, it was shocking. My mother took this letter and made 20 copies, gave each to each child, and kept others for other people. My father could never think we'll find this letter. The other person he wrote the letter to was his sister, my Auntie Toyin. They burned her letter so that nobody sees it in the future. But they forgot to burn Funke's letter. We have it now, Daddy. Daddy, dearest, this is your life. On your 80th birthday, look back at how you destroyed us. How you collaborated with your mother, my grandmother. My grandmother died in 2013 on October 22nd. At 10:22, everything had a 10 and a 2. She was 102. She died at 10:22 in the morning, and it was on 10/22, 2013. I have my reservations about my grandmother. I lived here with her in 1975, 40 years ago, in this house, me and her alone. She would try stuff with me. I would not answer her. Come to my room. After 15 years, my sister Funke admitted that my father encouraged her to go inside Alaja's room, and they put something on her neck called bere. It's like a blade thing. It's just rituals. And the bere was supposed to make her love her siblings and things like that. Get along. Unfortunately, they tricked my sister. What they really did to her was to hate her siblings. For 22 years, I did not talk to Funke. When she came to America, we got into fights all the time. I had to call the police to get her out of my house at one point. She had nowhere to go, so she went to the Omito Wiju's house because her husband had family there. It was just a fight. For 22 years out of my 30 years over there, I never communicated with my sister. I never called home, nothing. She had 4 children. She'll have one child today, another next year. My mother will call me, another child born. I didn't care. I didn't call her. But the animosity was due to those rituals my grandmother did to her, telling her she'll be friendly with her spouse, with her, her siblings. But instead, Funke and I hated each other. There was no one that could end that. People say, oh, when she beat you up, you guys should end the fight. And some morons in Nigeria were saying, oh yeah, she'll beat you up again. You need to be beaten up. You don't know what's going on in people's families. You don't know how these things happen. My sister was embroiled in a ritual. After 15 years, she now finally told my mom that she was taken into that room. She never let her children see my grandmother. I let my children see my grandmother when they came home. But she was 90-something years old and 96. She couldn't do much, but who knows? I didn't announce my visit. She saw them. We sat in the living room and we left. However, my sister never let her children see her. We used to say, oh, she didn't allow her children to see Alaja, da, da, da. However, now I understand why. I wouldn't have let mine see them too. Chapter 5. This is supposed to be a 5-chapter documentary. I'm going into 12 minutes in each one. In chapter 5, I'm going to do a wrap-up of leaving the 90s and watching Oyeleke's death. I'm Kemi Olunloyo. You're listening to Daddy Dearest, my audiobook of my father, Victor Malu, on his 80th birthday, on how he suffered everyone in this family. I'm Kemi Olunloyo, and this is the chapter 5 and final chapter of my documentary and audiobook, Daddy Dearest, an 80-year anniversary book about my father, Victor Olunloyo. It is very disturbing. It hurts what my father has put my family through. By the time the 90s ended, my brother Oyeleke was 17. He went to Adesoye College in Ofa. He was a good student. He went from F to A's. My father taught him mathematics. My father's a mathematician, a public official who served 45 appointments in 51 years. My father was honest. He was called one of the most honest politicians on the floor of the Senate by Ribadu when Ribadu was in charge of the EFCC. He's never stolen a penny. Even when him and Obasanjo got into their big fight and Obasanjo said, "Oh, you stole 500,000," my father wrote a 24-page letter to General Obasanjo, President Obasanjo, and the fight went on for years. They ended their fight in 2013 at Professor Akikungbe's birthday in front of 5 presidents in the middle of a church on July 17th, 2013. The Obasanjos and us are friends again. But however, all this drama that you don't know about, the Obasanjo story is nothing next to the Olunloyos. Yes. You can call it whatever you want, Olunloyo Rama, Olunloyo Gate. There's more. I'm just telling you our faction. Oyeleke was 17 and wanted to go abroad like all of us. He wanted to go abroad. He saw a lot going on with my mom and my dad. And the last thing he said was, "Daddy, take care of mommy. Don't abuse her." On the day Oyeleke left here to go abroad, he came back home 3 times because the car broke down 3 times. Something spiritual about it. I don't know. I can't explain it. But nobody knew that before Oyeleke went. My father, in what he will think that it's like a prayer thing. I mean, some people would take their children to the church, to the Aladuras, and pray that your child is going abroad, pray that something well happens, pray they be safe. My father took Oyeleke to ritualists. They took Oyeleke to Ronke's house, and they went to ritualists. Yes, ritualists. He bathed with blood. My sister was also taken to that same Ibefun place where she too bathed with blood. Why they were so afraid to tell my mom, I don't know. Was it embarrassment? Was it scared? Was it fear? Was it part of the rituals? I wouldn't bathe with blood of anything, human, animal, whatever. But Oyeleke was given a bath in blood, and that was my father's way of doing prayers and stuff. Why would you do that? Whatever the case, he went. Not even 30 days and 4 days, Oyeleke was killed in Birmingham, England, as he crossed the street to go to the laundromat to pick up his clothes. He was struck by a drunk driver and died. He was brain dead. December 21st, 1999. Y2K, we're all scared the computers are going to shut down in 2000. He was one of those people that were looking towards that. He was a computer technician, software engineer student. He called me in America and said, "Wow, Atu, I'm abroad now. I'm happy. I decided to fly to London for Christmas with my kids." I was going to Binga's house. My sister was also coming from Philadelphia with her son. All of us wanted to have a family Christmas. It was well planned. It didn't happen. Instead, on the 21st of December, when I arrived, my son Annie was in a big hotel accident. As he tried to take a shower, his hand was sliced off. The shower door broke, and my son's hand was dangling from his wrist, blood and bone everywhere. Helicopter shuttled him into a hospital. He had emergency plastic surgery to reattach his hands. Called Binga up and said, "Listen, this is what's happening. Oh my God, oh my God." And then they had surgery for him. As he was discharged later that night, Oyeleke was struck by a car. Hit about 5 people at the crossing. He was the one that was dragged the most, and he was unconscious. He was brain dead. The doctors told us that his brain stem was broken. Can't fix it, like an egg rolling off a table. He was brain dead, and my father was like, "Oh no, he can't be, he can't be." He was brain dead. I'm the medical one in this family. My mother was outside cooking for my dad, frying something when they called. What? My first grandchild, hands, and then my last child in a coma. It was a nightmare for my mother. What could she do? She goes to church all the time. The Olunloyo Church, St. David's Kudeti, dedicated to her marriage and her family. What could she do? My mother was shocked. She would be the one. You could see the sadness in her face. She flew into London. My son was discharged from the hospital. We spoke to the media about how hotels have to put safety into everything. It was an issue at that time, but Oyeleke was in a coma. On the 23rd of December, we decided that it should be pulled from life support. The priest arrived, they prayed for him. They took every machine off, and when it came to the lung machine, they took it off. And right before he stopped breathing, he smiled. Oyeleke smiled, and he was gone. We arrived at Birmingham, my mom and I, to see his body. That was the only time my mom could see him, because we were going to bury Oyeleke, and she couldn't be there, Nigerian tradition. She sat in his dormitory in his room, packed his things, and we told her that we will show her pictures, we'll send pictures. There wasn't much social media then, but we'll take pictures and we'll show her what he looked like in the casket. His hair was done. His picture's online. I've posted it many times because of the drunk driving thing. We wanted people to learn from drunk driving. The driver was prosecuted. He got 3 years in jail. Another girl was in a coma. One lost her legs. The 3 years is done. He's out driving again. My brother's gone. And what happened after that? My grandmother was celebrated. She told my father, this is why I told you to have 2 more children, because 2 of your children are going to die. Number 1 and number 3. That'll be my sister and my brother in America, Shola and Yemi, but they were not the ones that died. Oyeleke died. On the night that Muyiwa Olunloyo was killed, on 3rd Mainland Bridge with 4 of his friends in a car coming from a party, he was the middle passenger. Car somersaulted. That was the very same night that a trailer was going to kill me in Pennsylvania. When I came out of a highway and a truck went right in front of that trailer, I was supposed to be the one underneath that trailer. That truck went before me, he overtook me, and I saw a ball of fire. And the guy was dead. That was supposed to be me. On that very night is the night Muyiwa's accident happened on the 3rd Mainland Bridge, and he died. He was the only one that died. The safest seat in that car, middle passenger. My grandmother celebrated the fact that somebody died. I and Muyiwa Olunloyo were supposed to die. I did not die. Muyiwa died. She told my father that that's the reason why he should go out and have 2 more children. Ronke had 2 children for my father. If my grandmother was not celebrating these things and the rituals, I probably wouldn't say, yeah, she's responsible. My father tells everybody that's why he went to have 2 more children, because he would lose 2. Well, he almost lost 2. My brother, who's a quadriplegic, Tyre, and Oyeleke, he died. I almost died, but I made it. I almost died in the 1978 accident, and I almost died in Pennsylvania. What kind of family is this? What kind of father is pledging allegiance to a witch of a mother? These are things I have to say before I go. Because on the 12th of March, as I record this documentary, becomes 10 years. 10 years that I left the United States. After I battled autism with my son, and I could not live in the house with him anymore. We don't know what evil happened. We don't know what they did to my son when they took him to the place where they all bathed with blood and stuff. Without my mother's permission, my father took my son with Ronke. I confronted Ronke a couple of years ago. She said, oh, they said he couldn't talk, and so she admitted taking him there. So you patronize ritualists? I asked her. Daddy was the one that wanted to go. I became very aware of things going on in the occult in my family. Lots of people dead, injured, paralyzed, whatsoever. The Olunloyo family, saddened by tragedy all the time. Would it stop somewhere? No. It continued. One family member after the other started to die, and my dad was still here. My grandmother became sick. She lived till 102. She lived maybe because of the stuff she did. She would kill owls, big birds of all kinds. It was terrible. The stuff taken out of these rooms, it was terrible. Everything that happened to Binga, she was using him to get more power by hurting his own children, killing his own children. On March 11, 2015, yesterday, my father came here this afternoon. On this afternoon, he went into the living room. I told my mother, don't let him back in here. He hasn't seen Tyre. If he comes here, it's going to be spiritual. My father sat down and wanted the entire electronic system packed up and taken to Ronke's house. My mother refused. I ran into the living room when I heard the noise just to get my CDs out of a CD player. As I got my CD out, I said, Daddy, don't scream on Mommy. My father hit my mom with that cane in front of Chief Lekware in December after an argument about money. The governor gave my father money to go abroad for medical treatment. The money was given to Ronke. Half of it, maybe 5 million, was given to Ronke. Half of it was given to the drivers and the PA, Korede Asuni, to go and change in Sabo when my mother is the wife. They changed the money, they stole part of the money, and then when they got to London, they said the money was missing. My mother packed everything for him, and we took photograph of everything we packed in there, including money and envelopes and stuff. When they got to London, money was missing. Ronke spoke to me over the phone saying things about, there's 3 million naira missing, there's this missing. Between Korede Asuni, the PA, and Ronke and everybody that was with my dad. When my dad became violent on the morning of the 30th of December 2014 and agitated, and we had to get him into the plane. He was going to walk out of this house half naked and said he was going down the street to see Adedubu. Adedubu has been dead since 2008. My father has signs of dementia. I videotaped the whole event, and they had to lock the gate before he went out there and fell down or embarrassed himself. He was not wearing anything under. We held him, and he bit me twice in the hands. He slapped Idowu, the man that cares for Tyre, so hard Idowu's neck was so badly injured. We locked the gate, and we called the doctor. Dr. Ariyo came from the back gate and treated him with 2 tablets of Lagasil to make him calm down. And he calmed down, he became sleepy, and he was sedated. My father was then prayed for, and he went in the car, and they went to Lagos. When he got to Lagos, he assaulted cabin crew, but they managed to get him into the plane with 3 SSS guys, according to Ronke. They got to London, and then the phone call came, like the money was missing, and my father accused my mother of stealing the money. That's when hell really broke loose. We have photographs of what we packed, who stole the money. Nobody admitted to it. And then we heard the money was even used to pay tuition for Ronke's children. So it wasn't for medical uses, and the governor gave you all this money. It really is a shame. You didn't leave any money for Tayo, the house, the workers, nothing. And then you come back, you move in with Ronke, and Ronke doesn't have the gumption to tell Daddy, go home. It's a sad family. Drama, drama, drama. I don't write books. I don't have time. I don't even read books. I'm a broadcaster. I record things. There will be a supplement to this documentary. And that supplement will be audios of my father saying things I need to prove to you while you're listening. The sad parts of this family. This is where we are, and it's March 12th. I went and tweeted the whole world about my feelings. Guess what? My father said in the letter, we are now free. I am now free. I have spoken my mind. On behalf of my family, my mother and my siblings, I'm Kemi Olunloyo, pharmacist, journalist, broadcaster, public relations specialist, activist, community in gun violence. My father threatened me as I rescued my mother from that argument. He hit me with his cane. Remember, he hit my mom with the cane in front of Chief Lekware and dented her forehead. And my son KJ called me in Lagos. I was in the middle of a traffic and a cab. I was very upset. So upset that when I got to my hotel, my phone was left in the cab. The cab driver called me with the phone and said that he'll bring the phone back the next day. I had to rush back to Ibadan. That cane is very big. My father then pointed that cane at me, hit me with it, poked me with it, and said, I will kill you. I will kill you. I said, Dad, if you touch me with that cane, I will hit that cane on you very bad. One of my cousins was there holding my dad. Everybody was holding him down. Whatever it is, he became agitated again. And I told them to get him out of the house. We've had peace here for 60 days. We don't need this anymore. My father's portrayed to the world as an elderly statesman, a very good guy. He gives people money. He does things for people, but he never does anything for his children. The job my sister got as special advisor to the governor was not gotten through my dad. The big misconception is that my dad helped her get the job. No, she did it herself. She worked so hard for the government of Oyo State that Akala's government still owes her money. They didn't pay her. She continued that work, and she got a job with Ajimobi. On the day Ajimobi tweeted that, come join Oyo State government, I have the tweet. She went and joined. I didn't respond to it. I was just arriving in Nigeria. She got her job herself. My dad was nothing to do with it, regardless of if she's the special education, whatever. And my father was the commissioner at one time. My father didn't make me. He did not even know the degrees I got, aside from the pharmacy. He paid for my dormitory, my apartment, and things like that. A lot of it, was scholarship. And my broadcasting degree and my PR degree, I paid for all that. I decided to do that. In 2012, when I came back from Canada, is when my father knew I even had a public relations degree and a full broadcasting degree. We didn't live with him. We had nothing to do with him. So please don't tell me that my father sent us abroad. He gave us opportunity to do this. He did not do anything for us. We made ourselves. We made ourselves. Binga is now 50. The emotional trauma he's going through, I can't describe to you because I don't know. He wants nothing to do with anybody in the family. Not that we're all mad at him or he's mad at us, but he talks to us when he has to say hi, call my mom. His mom finally died some years back. They had a funeral for her, and he made a remark about my mom not being his mom, and it upset me because it was my mom that took him to the hospital when his hands were broken. It was my mom that took him in and raised him, taught him everything he knows, and that caused a rift between Binga and I. His friend Yinka Agbola put it in the magazine, and we have not spoken since then. I was very upset because I took my mom's back. My mom stood up for Binga. We haven't heard from him. He doesn't call. The family is dysfunctional in sections that are dysfunctional, and it has to do with my father. Daddy dearest, you ruined the family. Daddy dearest, it's your 80th birthday. Happy birthday. Change your life, because I simply believe you're going to be here for another 20 years. You're going to live 102 years old like your mother because of all the rituals and things you're doing. You don't look nice. You're too old. You look 95, but I pray that you have more life. On your 80th birthday, we're not going to celebrate it with you. We're not going to be with you, Daddy. None of us want anything to do with you. You're going to be alone, lonely. You're going to have people come and visit you. I got a call today that General Buhari wants to visit you on your 80th birthday. And I understand that he will be president when he visits you. And that's possible. April 14th, we would have known the president by then, the new president-elect. I remember he toppled your government. There's going to be a lot of people coming here, Abbas and Obasanjo and the whole crowd. But Daddy, you don't live here anymore. You live in a neighborhood in Felele with Ronke. They're not going to come over there. Even my uncles have refused to visit you over there. It's an insult to my mom. We're not letting you come back into the house because of the spiritual and the ritualistic things you carry around. My father came here yesterday, almost wanted to kill my mom. And before he left, he said to my mom, they would talk about Kemi near me, someone that's going to die soon. Daddy, have you gone to the ritualist to try to kill me already? He smirked. You're going to die soon anyway. I don't know what he's done. But yesterday I couldn't go out. I refused to drive the car. My father said I was going to die soon. I had a fear in me. Let's see. If anything happens to me, I want the world to know that I'm going to release this documentary way before his birthday. And everybody can listen to it. Daddy dearest, now the world knows. Now I'm free. I love you, Daddy. Kemi Olunloyo, you taught us everything. That we must never lie. We must be transparent and we must be honest. And that's what I did in this documentary. Anything wrong? If you had threatened me in a modern country, you would have been arrested yesterday and charged with terroristic threats. If you had done what you did to Binga in America, you would never have seen us again. But you get away with a lot of things. Today, I spoke to the Olubadan representative, Chief Oyewale, who came to this house with the staff of the Olubadan once before on this matters, the Yalode, and the police commissioner. The police commissioner will just beg me, oh, Kemi, don't do anything. He's old now. Is it when he kills me? What if my father actually takes a knife in the kitchen and stabs me with it? Will they charge him? Most likely they wouldn't. They'll say he's old, but he's killed me. It'll be the biggest story. Follow me at Kemi's Kids, Kemis Kids. Kemi's Kids Foundation is my foundation helping Nigerian children help themselves. A global foundation that I founded where I go in the streets and help kids, relate to them, show them things. You can see pictures at Kemi's Kids and also facebook.com/Kemi's Kids. Because I am committed to save the next kid in Nigeria from torture of any kind. Whether it's direct torture, whether it's rituals, whatever, nobody would live the way Binga lived again in this country. Thank you for listening to my 5-chapter documentary. I'm Kemi Olunloyo. I will have a supplement, an audio supplement to this documentary where you'll hear my father's voice and things that he said to me and others. March 12th, 2015. God bless. I am on facebook.com/HNN Africa, Twitter at HNN Africa, Instagram, and all social media. HNNAfrica.com is world news for Nigerians. And this is a special from Communications Media and HNN Africa and Kemi's Kids Foundation. Hello, this is Kemi Olunloyo, and it's March 14, 2015. I'm recording for you the audio supplement of Daddy Dearest. Daddy Dearest is the audio book and documentary about my father, Amalulu Olunloyo, on his 80th birthday, about his life in the occult, ritualism in destroying people, along with his wife, his junior wife, Ronke Shonaike. Ronke Shonaike calls herself Ronke Amalulu Olunloyo. My name is hyphenated, that's why I'm Kemi Amalulu Olunloyo, and I've never been married. However, Ronke calls herself Amalulu Olunloyo. She's not even married to my father. She's not legally married, and she cannot produce her marriage certificate. A lot of people in Nigeria heard on City People magazine an online interview where she called, or they called her, and she spoke about my father and all the allegations made against my father, herself, and more. In Ronke's interview, she told City People that I was deported from Canada and US because I couldn't live anywhere. I was not deported from the US. I was deported from Canada. Everybody knows that, and that deportation is a badge of honor to me. It was a political deportation. I was a gun violence activist, and I got inside the House of the Conservatives because I fought for black children. I don't have to go into my deportation. You already know about it. You can read it at facebook.com/HNN Africa. There's an entire album called the Deportation Album. Once again, my deportation was a badge of honor. But what Ronke was trying to do is to tell City People ugly things about me, she felt. What I'm going to reveal about her now is very damaging to a lot of people because a lot of people are going to go down in this. It's a mess. But if we don't speak out about ritualism, Nigeria will continue to be delving in this occult world. Today I learned that ritualism is going on in schools, in universities. And I made myself the self-appointed voice against ritualism in Nigeria. I announced that on Twitter. It cannot happen in schools, in colleges. It's happening in homes. But I guess I'm too late because people are telling me cultism and ritualism have been going on for years. Why is nobody talking about this? Well, let's go back to my family. It was the entrance of Ronke into my family that damaged a lot of things in this family. But there are many families where the husband will go out and marry a junior wife that this hasn't happened in. There are also many that it's happening in and they don't talk about it. I'm a modern woman. I was raised by myself on the streets of America, Canada. My parents were home, they sent us to school, and we grew up fast. Ronke was a campaign worker for my dad during the 1983 governorship elections. The general manager of a major radio station in Ibadan told me that during those days he was just a really good young journalist and that he followed a lot of politicians on campaigns. And then this one campaign worker was sleeping with your dad. and that was Ronke. My mom had no idea this was going on. Ronke claims she married my dad in some kind of ceremony. Nobody knows, nobody's heard. But she had kids from my father, 2 kids. My grandmother urged my dad to go have another child, 2 other children outside because 2 of his children were going to die. What my father didn't tell me was that his mother was plotting to have 2 of us killed. I already told you. On the night Muyiwa Olunloyo, my cousin, died on 3rd Mainland Bridge in Lagos, or the same night I was almost in a fatal accident in Pennsylvania. And it happened right about the same time. I escaped, Muyiwa died. Now let's go to Muyiwa, Uncle Segun Olunloyo, my uncle, who is the professor, VOS, in Unilag, that was very popular with the students. Uncle Segun is very nice. He does not speak to my father now. For years, we have been brainwashed that Uncle Segun is a bad person, and that brainwashing came from my dad. My dad said horrible things about him, different things. My dad fought him because of the Mogaji. The Mogaji is a title that is assigned to certain families in Ibadan through the Olubadan. Uncle Segun was supposed to be the Mogaji, and my dad collaborated with his sisters and others in the family that he will not become the Mogaji. It was a dead-on fight. My father told us back in those days that Uncle Segun came to him and said, I had a dream that Muyiwa was going to die. Very scary. So my dad took Muyiwa to Ibefun. The same Ibefun my father takes everybody to go bathe in blood. I don't know the details of the trip to Ibefun, but when they came back, Muyiwa still died. Ronke was the one that introduced my father to Ibefun. She cannot deny it. If I have to prove it to her, I'll give you an audio of her talking to me in 2013. When I confronted her on the phone, why did you take my child to a ritualist? Well, Daddy said he couldn't talk. My son couldn't talk? Well, my son couldn't talk for 14 years after you took him to a ritualist. And then I got back to America, they're telling me he's autistic. The Americans will have a word for that, autism. My child's autism was a little different, very violent. It cost me a lot of stuff. I left America on my own because I could not raise my child anymore. He was being arrested, taken to mental hospitals, fighting with social workers. I went through so much over there with my child. And if I had known my own father took my child to Ibefun to bathe in blood or to see ritualists, I would never have sent my son home to live with his grandparents for a year on holiday. Sean also went there, my sister's son. What they have done to these children that have damaged them long term, you cannot explain. Ronke took my father to Ibefun each time everybody went. Yemi went to Ibefun, my big sister, number 1 in the family, I'm number 2. What they did to Binga, assaulted him. My father tied him to the fan, ceiling fan. He fell, he broke bones. My father broke his hand. My father ironed him. My father tortured him. Everything that my father did to Binga. My grandmother was saying, oh, it's my mom that was doing it. Because she went and agreed to raise a child born on the streets. And she was using it to get power. Ronke said to city people that I said that my mother was into rituals. What if I said that? And I said it only because I had my fight with Funke. I don't like a Grail faith. Funke's Grail. And what did Funke say? I said, that Grail thing is cultish. It's kind of cultish. It's cultish because I just feel that it's funny. My mother's not in the Grail, but she supports all the stuff they're doing. So if I actually said my mother was in a cult, which I didn't say, because she's not part of them, Ronke will say anything. She also told city people that I had 3 children with 3 different men. Of course, people say I have 4 with 4 different men. Ronke can't even get how many children I have with how many men, or even if I have 3, 4, or how many people I had children for. Ronke, meanwhile, hasn't told the world about her children. 2 of them are for my father. I don't like bringing children into things. But her oldest daughter, Shubomi, a fine young lady who was very scared of her mom, could not even take a job at Space FM in Ibadan, owned by Ronke's brother. I will get to Shubomi in a minute. Shubomi Taiwo has never been taken care of by her own father because Ronke had her child and her child hadn't been accepted. My oldest child Annie. Runke claims that she knows Annie's father, and that's it. One day she even said the guy was her cousin. She'll come up with anything. She will come up with anything to manipulate anybody. Some of the stuff she's saying, she actually thinks it hurts me. It doesn't. Only when you say things that are true. Runke went on to say that I connive with my mom to poison my father and steal his money. On February 12, 2015, Runke and my father called from London. My father shuttled Runke all the way to London to take care of him while he was fighting the governor, Ajimobi, for money for an aide to follow him to London. My father fought with Ayobami, my brother, in London because he wanted to stay with Ayobami. And Ayobami said I wasn't available. I have church activities till the 2nd of January. All that fighting they did for nothing. Runke had a flat ready for my dad, an apartment, 170 pounds a day. My father had everything in place with Runke but told nobody. These are the kind of things he does. I told the doctor my father has signs of dementia, Alzheimer's. Yes, he does have him. He became violent. He had the symptoms of forgetting things, saying things and not remembering, and acting. Like wearing buba and not the shokoto. And he's half naked. Not even with underwear. My father gets to the gate. He's going out the gate. He's going to visit Adedubu down the street. When Adedubu was alive, my father did not walk down the street to see Adedubu. His driver took him down that street in front of our house. So why would you get on the road now to take a walk? And Adedubu has been dead since 2008. My father was having classic symptoms of dementia. And it was time to restrain him and preserve his dignity. I didn't let him go through the gate. He bit me on both arms. After biting me, he was supposed to be in London on a flight the next day. How do we get him to Lagos? In the middle of holding him together, our aide, Mr. Idowu, was slapped silly by my dad. My dad had a padlock, huge padlock for the gate, and almost hit it on Idowu's head. I wasn't going to let that happen. I got bitten, my scars in my hand, and I called Dr. Ario, and I told Ario to get here quick, that my father needs to be sedated. I'm a pharmacist, a licensed pharmacist in America, at least US trained. Ario showed up, and we told him to go to the back gate, because we locked the front gate. Dr. Ario came with injections, pills, whatever he came with. He sat down in the living room and told my dad, I need him to calm down. We're going to give you some medicine that's going to relax you. The medicine was Lagatil. I knew Lagatil. It's a sedative. Daddy had to go to Lagos because his flight was the next day. He needed medical care, and the governor had now given him the 10 million. And so, when my father sat down, Dr. Aria did not give him Lagatil injection. He gave him the tablet. He took it. And then he started sleeping, and he was sedated. We wiped my father. We put his clothes on. And then my mother called him into his room. What amounts to be 10 million naira was sitting on my father's bed in pounds and naira. Each envelope had a specific amount of pounds. And my mother counted everything with Korede Asuni, my father's PA. Korede Asuni, my father calls him a thief. My father says Korede is a thief. Korede stole my money, left and right, years after, beats him, slaps him. Is Korede taking advantage of my father? Did he? Many times, says a lot of people. In the process of that, Korede sat down in the room. My mother had the money all packed, and I'm looking at like 20 envelopes of money. One envelope looked like this: 5,000 pounds in 20-pound bills, sealed, counted by my mom in front of Korede. Every of them sealed. My mother wanted me to take a photo of the envelopes front and back. After I did that and put it in a cloud storage, my mom did it with her phone as well. Korede was there. The money was not taken into my father's bag, packed properly. My father doesn't have bank accounts abroad or anything. He doesn't have houses abroad, nothing. He was carrying straight cash. And they were going to declare it because it was a medical visa and it was also medical treatment. So the money was going to be declared. We now handed the bag over to Korede. There was at least 200,000 naira there in cash for the hotel in Lagos as they traveled the next day. After doing all that, they got to London. Should we find out how our father was doing? Korede did not contact us for 2 days. We finally found Korede on Facebook. I inboxed him and his wife. Korede now told me how my father was doing. After he told me how daddy was doing, he mentioned that daddy slapped him, kicked him, and he was really injured. He went through a lot of abuse. Ronke gets on the phone and says to me, it was a really tough time. When the Lagatil wore out, my father assaulted cabin crew of Virgin Atlantic. I had to call some SSS guys to accompany him. Ronke is on tape telling me that she called the SSS guys to fly with my dad because he was violent on the plane. And I said, I don't want any plane to be brought down in flight. It's a disgrace, a former governor and all this stuff. And I said, okay, but he got there fine. Then Ronke started to tell me about the money. When I counted all the money, there was 10,000 pounds missing, which amounts to $3 million, 3 million pounds. How could that happen? We counted that the money was intact, everything. Korede, ask him. I have a problem with cash on the plane. My dad is tired, sedated, whatever it is. Someone is going to go into your cabin compartment and steal your money while you go to the toilet or whatever it is. My father wears a urine bag. Okay? So he needs assistance. What the hell happened? Did the SSS guys took the money? Who took the money? They were telling us this on the phone. Ronke was telling me this on the phone. The next phone call, my dad said, I want to talk to your mom. She stole my money. That's when fire broke out in my house. My mom said, what? My mom refused to talk to my dad throughout the entire 30 days he was in London for that medical trip in December. This woman has suffered enough for my father. It will not continue. Throughout the whole trip, my dad will call to talk to my mom. She won't pick up her phone, nothing. He'll call me like 8 times a day. I'll still talk to him. But every conversation I had with my father on that London trip was recorded by me. He had no idea. In this audio supplement, you will hear some of those recordings. They're very disturbing. Knowing that Ronke said what she said, she did not know she was on tape either. Telling me that. I'm in shock. I'm lost of words. Telling me that. I connived with my mother to kill him. If he had had a 4th dose of Lagatil, he would have died. The question is this. There were 7 tablets of Lagatil. I packed my father's medicine to London, and I wrote a letter to the doctors in England. This is what is on. This is what we gave him before he left. His doctor gave him. And that's it. 7 tablets of Lagatil, 1 in his system. I told Korede not to give my father Lagatil because, of course, he's flying first class. I will not spend 2 million naira on a first class ticket for a 6-hour flight to London and then sleep throughout the whole thing. I want to eat the food, enjoy myself. If you need to give daddy another dose of Lagatil, have. Whatever happened between that hotel and the airport, they did not communicate it to us. All I know is 3 SSS guys accompanied them. Did they sedate him with more Lagatil? But Ronke said a 4th dose would have killed him. We had 7 tablets that went with him and 1 that the doctor gave him here. So who gave him the 2nd and the 3rd dose? Ronke hasn't said. Korede hasn't said. Nobody has said anything. Was somebody trying to kill my father? Probably so. And they stole his money. And now I have Ronke saying we gave him that. There's only 1 dose that was given to him, the doctor. From what I hear, Dr. Ario has already said that Ronke is a very, very horrible woman and that we should have nothing to do with her. We don't have anything to do with her. We just don't. Dr. Ario is a very kind, compassionate man. He was the doctor that went to see my grandmother, Alaja, who was the chief ritualist of this family when she was dying and suffering towards the end. Ario was the one that had to give him medicines and all. Nobody would treat my grandmother because she was a ritualist and nobody wanted to treat a witch. Dr. Ario was also the one that saved my father's life when I rushed him to the hospital on the 28th of October, on the environmental day, that I jumped into a government vehicle, a Jeep, a keyless entry Jeep that never drove before. The driver didn't get here on time. I got a 14-year-old child who can't drive, and I got a disabled brother who can't even move. Who would take my dad to the hospital? Blood pressure 160 over 100. Where was Ronke sleeping at home? I rushed my father to the hospital. When we got there, my mother was not even allowed to come into the room. She wasn't even allowed. My father told me to call Ronke. Ronke came, and then my father lied that it was Kemi that called Ronke. I didn't ask them to call Ronke. My father's a liar. Ronke came. At one point, we couldn't even get in the room. It was just Ronke and Dad. When I got in the room, I took photos of my dad with blood. They're draining his blood, his prostrate, his high blood pressure. Everything was just horrible. These are private photos because I wanted my sister to see all this. Like I said, my sister's the oldest. I'm number 2. Ronke Shonaike and my sister were classmates in staff school. To know that the Shonaike girl has been behind our house all these years, we were neighbors in Aminawe in UI with the Fatudus and the Shonaike. To know that one of the Shonaike girls that we used to walk to school together will be the one to claim she's married to my dad and ruin our family. It is impossible to even think that. Even the Fatudus say they never knew that Ronke would be someone like that. Kaide Fatudu told me in America, Ronke has always been the sugar daddy type. Ronke is going down with my dad. Korede has to answer questions about who drugged my dad and who stole the money. So they wanted to turn it back to us. We were here. We didn't know anything. 10 million naira. My father didn't use the money for a doctor. He only went to a doctor one time in London. The money was used to pay Wura and Olumide's school fees in London. 28,000 pounds. That's all Ronke wanted. Unfortunately, my father had told my brother, Tayo. Tayo's brain damaged. He's a quadriplegic. You can tell him something today at 2 o'clock. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. he would remember what you told him. But my father told Tayo. One day, Tayo has that recollective memory because after his accident at 8 years, the song he sang coming out of that coma was the song they were playing at the reception of the wedding where he was the ring bearer as he walked in. Recollective memory, Tayo said to Mr. Idowu, the man that cares for him, while they were bathing Tayo. Mr. Idowu, treatment oshi when daddy in love. School fees are on. I'm translating that to what kind of treatment is he going for? He's going to pay his children's tuition. Hassling and haggling the governor like that. That's what my father did. How did the money come here? 5 million came, another 5 million came. What did my dad do? Gave 5 million to Ronke, another 5 million to the driver and the PA to go and change it in Sabo for the trip. You give 5 million to your junior wife, and you can't even give it to your wife to go do that? Ronke changed hers. The driver and the PA changed theirs, and they brought it, and mommy counted everything and packed it for dad. Chief Lekware came here, Kakanfo. Lekware is my father's classmate and relative in government college. He was shocked, telling my dad, why would you give money to all these people outside? Where's your wife? Isn't this your wife? My father took a stick in his hand, his cane, and hit my mom in the forehead. Her forehead was swollen. The swelling in my mother's forehead was heard in Lagos. I was in a taxi cab in the middle of Lagos, coming from the airport to my hotel. When KJ called me, my son was crying. Grandma is hurt. Couldn't come to Ibadan right away. I was working for Mozi. Mozi Ogini, she is my manager, publicist, and agent in Nigeria. And I could not run to Ibadan right away. But I was so distraught that I left my phone inside the cab. I did. And that cab driver, he had my phone and called someone on my line to tell me that I left the phone in her, in the cab. The last person I called, he looked at my call log, and the last person I called on that phone line was Mozi. So Mozi called me from Port Harcourt and said, a cab driver just called me here. And then I talked to the cabbie, he brought the phone back. I meet good people. I meet positive people because my aura is not into rituals. Uncle Shegun went to Ibefun as well. Just heard this last night. They tricked him. Kemi Olunloyo, Uncle Lasso Olunloyo and Auntie Ebo Olunloyo's daughter. One out of a few children. They came here to bury their father. They did not come here to see my father one time. It is assumed that they were scared that they don't want to be exposed to a ritualist. My brother Ayobami came with them. And my brother said, Don't blame them if they don't want to come here. Leave them alone. They never came to see my dad. My dad, I'm the leader of this family. They did not want to see my dad. They went to see their uncles, but they did not see my dad. They didn't want any money from him. Nothing. From what I hear, they are accusing my dad of killing their mom and their dad. Their dad died the same way as my Uncle Femi. Uncle Kemi Olunloyo died in his sleep 2 months before the governorship. Uncle Femi's children are saying today that my dad used rituals to strengthen himself to win that governorship by sacrificing their father and to take control of the company, Design Tech Associates, that they started together. When Uncle Femi died, my dad did give the children some money from Design Tech. But what about that governorship? Sometimes ritualists need the power from other people by killing them. Uncle Olunloyo, same thing. Uncle Femi's brother, he died in a plane crash. They use that power to get more power for themselves. The bottom line is this. Uncle Lasso's children, they didn't come see my dad. They complained. On Facebook, Instagram, I read some things alleged that my dad had something to do with their mother's death. Uncle Lasso and Auntie Ebon were going to open their new house. And after packing everything there, the final trip to the house that day, she stopped by near the express and saw corn on the other side of the road. She wanted that corn. She crossed and bought the corn, and she was crossing back to get to her car when a trailer hit her. My brother was hit by a car in London as well. Mrs. Adeyemo was hit by a car in London itself. Why is everybody in the Olunloyo family getting hit by cars? Rituals, maybe? Everyone went to Ibefun but me. I don't go anywhere with my dad. For some reason, my father never takes me out. I always want to go with him. Awujale of Jebode's birthday. I want to go to high-profile events with my dad. He never wants me to go out. Why? I don't know. Maybe this is the reason. Because I'll be the one to weaken him. Because his mother has probably told him that I would be the one to weaken him. I lived with my grandmother in this house, March 1975, 40 years ago exactly. She tried everything to get me into her room. She didn't get me into her room. I ran her upside down this house. She could not catch me to do anything. She was a mean-ass ritualist. Killing owls on top of the house at night. We have this huge garden, which I believe my father built so that it can attract a lot of evil birds. We have 2 ravens around here that come every day to eat when we pour food outside. 2 huge ravens. The minute they see us come outside, they run away. Who are the 2 ravens? Is that my dad and my grandmother? Is that my dad and Ronke? 2 ravens. When all of a sudden at the top of the house, we found 8 of them on top of the house. 8 ravens. Perching. Mr. Adewu went upstairs to clean upstairs when the ravens were chasing him around. He almost fell from the top of the house. We counted them. There were 8. We counted all the ones that have died. All the ones that went to Ibefun. All the ones that have been killed by rituals that gave my father the power he had. As a father, a politician, an elderly statesman that the world saw out there. Daddy dearest, you were nothing without the rituals. 8 ravens. Uncle Femi, Uncle Laulu, Uncle Lasso, Auntie Ebu, my brother Ileke, Muiwa, my cousin, Kemi Olunloyo. I can continue. Almost 8 of them. I associated things with things, numbers with things, things with numbers. My grandmother killed birds here, and he'll show you what she killed. Owls, ravens, bats. The house is infected outside. One day there will be nobody in the Malete house anymore. The house of horrors, the house of rituals. My father was accused Arishikola of rituals to kill him. After Arishikola died, I wanted to go to visit him because I didn't want to go alone. You couldn't get through those gates and nobody knew me. Over there, does it help? So I'm Governor Olunloyo's daughter. No, I'm Kemi Olunloyo. Arishikola knew me very well and some of the staff in the gate. But because of the rowdiness of that place, I wanted to go with my dad. He didn't want me to go with him. He said, Arishikola, I'm not going to his house right now because he tried to kill me with rituals. Arishikola tried to kill you with rituals, Daddy? Well, he's dead now. You could have said that before he died. The bottom line, he went there later on his own. He didn't want me to go with him. They had been saying that I'm the one going to weaken my dad. The last straw came on March 11th when he came in here and said, you're going to die anyway. You're going to die soon anyway. Friday the 13th, beware of the Ides of March 15th. Today's the 14th. I'm Kemi Olunloyo. I'm not stepping out of this house just yet. If I want to step out, I will. But this is a weekend that I want to be a mother. It's Mother's Day tomorrow. I don't want to lose my life by stepping out between the 13th and the 15th. An evil weekend that they want to make it for me. My children are in America. My 2 children are in America, and I want them to see me again. I will celebrate my Mother's Day here. I will send the driver to buy me pizza and ice cream. And then on Monday, I'll return to normal. Daddy, you can't do rituals anymore. I have paralyzed you. You're not going further. Ronke, as of what you say, your lies, you said you want to take me to court. Yes, do take me to court because I have audio against you. I should be taking you to court for accusing me of trying to poison you, my dad. The yellow day, everybody knows. And all the rituals you did when daddy was pimping you, I just learned. You went and told people that my father got money from IBB to pay Ayobami's school fees. You told people that my father got money from Abdusalam to pay Oyeleke's school fees. Oyeleke was in school for 30 days and 4 days. 1 month and 30 days, and he got killed because you took him to Ibefun. He got killed by a car in London, Birmingham, UK. And also that the money that was used for Oyeleke's funeral, you got it from Abdusalam. Daddy pimped you, right? So you can get money from people. I understand you sleep with all these people when you go get the money. People are out there telling me on Twitter and Facebook when they don't like me that my dad stole money to send me to school abroad. Thank God I sent myself to school. But my siblings schooling, did rituals send them to school? Do you use rituals to get the money from IBB or Abdusalam or anyone else? Did you sleep with them to get the money? You want to drag people's name in the mud. You've dragged a lot of names in the mud. And you said you got me a job, Ronke. What job did you get me so I wouldn't depend on my dad anymore? My father used to give me allowance when I first came for the first year. I was deported from Canada. I was not even allowed to pack my stuff. Joe Newman stole all my things. I had nothing. There were people who went to London. People in Motayo, shout out to you. A person I don't even know that I met once. Nigerian, married to a Greek businessman. Motayo came from Greece and brought me everything. Toiletries, jewelry, new things to start over. Underwear, pants, bras. What did you do for me, Ronke? You mentioned in the article that I came to you for help. You tried to help me. You tried to help me. When did I come to you, Ronke? You didn't do anything for me. Get it real, girl. Get it real, girl. You said you tried to help me. You got me a job. Do you ever follow up on what you say you did? You got me a job so I wouldn't depend on daddy? Ronke, you didn't get me a job. I run HNN Africa myself. HNN Africa Vitamin Kemi, I run my own assets myself. Maybe you should know what I'm doing. What she was referring to was the fact that at one point daddy called me and said that, do I still want to work in broadcasting? I said, sure. I'm actually looking for a radio job on the side. In June, July of last year, 2014, my dad sent me to Space FM, a news station in Ibadan, to see the general manager. Asked the driver to take me. His driver took me to Space. When I got to Space, I interviewed with a guy. Just a nice little meeting. Tolu Sonyalu came inside. And I said, oh my God, Tolu, long time. Tolu Sonyalu is one of my mentorees in Radio Nigeria. She was working there as an on-air personality when I was there in 2007. I taught a lot of things to them in radio. Well, Tolu was the program director of Space FM now. So she came into the room during the interview thing, and Tolu said, okay, Auntie Kemi, here's everybody's emails. Send us a proposal of what you want to do. They were kind to me. They were nice. I wanted to do a health program and a social media program. And I left. But before I left, the general manager told me something that was a little disturbing. She said, somebody came here to get a job. Was it you? I said, no, this is my first time. Some Olunloyo girl. She too was a mass communication thing. I said, no, mine is journalism. I couldn't figure out who it was because the only people that have mass communication degrees in this family is Diola Olunloyo and Ore. And Ore is supposed to be doing her master's in journalism. When I found out who it was Ore Olunloyo. Ore Olunloyo has a degree in mass communication. So she could have came over there to look for a job, but she never came back, they said. That's Kemi Olunloyo's daughter. Why didn't Ore come back or even call? I don't know. But I'm sitting here in March of 2015, since June of 2014, that I told Tolu and the GM that I will do a proposal. I never got to it. Could it be Ronke's rituals? I just never got to it. Later, my father told me that the station belonged to Ronke's brother. So Ronke's brother owns Space FM. So she kind of used her connections to get me a job there by asking daddy to send me to the GM. And nobody told me this. But why didn't I go back there? Why didn't I follow up? Were they doing rituals that would not let me even get that job? Who knows? But Ronke said that she got me a job to help me. She had no idea. I never even applied for the job anymore. Ronke said to go into Space FM with an aura. Her own daughter, Shibomi, told me her story of how she refused to work at Space FM. Ronke, you need to talk to your daughter about that. How they wanted her to work in a special department for not much money. How she said she couldn't do that and she had a child to support. How she wanted to go to America. Shibomi is her daughter, but I respect that girl because she's independent. And it's Shibomi that's ultimately going to expose her mom for who she is. The bottom line is this. Your daughter cannot work there. You're talking about, I can't live with my sister. I can live in Molite. I can live anywhere I want. Funke and I are not fighting anymore because of the rituals you did and how my grandmother put those things on her. We've broken it now. You're going to see Funke and I shopping together at ShopRite and being a happy family again. Your curses are broken, Ronke. Your daughter couldn't work at the station. I didn't go back there. Some aura did not let me. I don't know. Advertisers should beware of Space FM. I would not go in there because of the negativity and the aura of rituals that girl has in there. Ronke's brother. It takes a lot of money to open a radio station. Where'd the money come from, Ronke? Have you told us? Did your brother do rituals too, or did you take him to rituals? Ronke was said to have been in the sales, the beginning part of MITV and Star FM. They got rid of her. I heard Alhaji Muri got rid of her because of her aura over there. She may destroy places with her aura of ritualism. You didn't get me any job there. Get it together, Ronke. If you want to go to court, I'll open you up in court and I'll fight you to the nail. But guess what? You're not worth it. You ruined my family, Ronke Shinaike. You ruined my father. You said that my father left us. Yet my father goes to the police commissioner yesterday and tells the police commissioner we chased him out. See the contradictory? I'm here with my husband. I didn't abandon him, she said to the City People interview. You abandoned him for 3 days. You went to Lagos for 3 days. You claimed that you got permission for him to go and check your property. Do you know what happened in the 3 days? My father came and sat in the office and said, no one has cooked for him. The food smells. Your house girls cooked food that smelled. Lekon is giving me a bath. Your driver was bathing my father. Where my father had a house here and people working for him, my father hasn't paid salaries in 3 months. And you are with City People. Tell them, City People, all this bullshit. Ronke, please. Enough is enough. And this is chapter 6, audio supplement of Daddy Dearest. Hashtag Olunloyo Olunloyo 80. Kemi Olunloyo is my name. I'm the second daughter of Governor Olunloyo, a man that served 45 appointments in 51 years and lived in rituals throughout them. Power, money, women, government. Kemi Olunloyo. Today is now the 16th of March, 2015, and I'm actually recording Daddy Dearest as it comes and as developments happen. Very significant day today. In this chapter, which I named Chapter 7, for now, it's going to be Chapter 7, and I'm going to talk about some phenomena. Of course, this morning my father read on the internet that I have possessed the house. Well, repossessed the house, whatever it is, that I have now declared the house mine and no one is coming in here anymore, especially him. The house does not belong to my father. It's the Olunloyo Horatio Mansions, which belongs to Horatio Olunloyo, my grandfather. He died in 1948 when my father was 13. He had a will. He had just built the house, but no one lived there. He did not sign the will. His lawyer, Kemi Olunloyo, wanted to go to the weekend in Ikene, and on Monday, when he came back, the will was supposed to be signed. My grandfather died on that Saturday morning of high blood pressure, so that will was never signed. A long time, Daddy was one of the mentorees for Kemi Olunloyo. That's why you see my father in a lot of pictures with Awo. Although in 1983 they had separated and all kinds of stuff happened before that my father was not in the party that Olunloyo built here. Anyway, the bottom line is he gave my father that will, and my father says that the will is lost, it's gone. He said that it was in his suitcase on the night of Ali Must Go, when we lost everything in that fire and that explosion that caused Tayo's accident. We've always believed that the will's gone. But with all these developments, do we actually believe anything my father has told us? My father has been fighting for this house for so long, for his sisters, and of course fighting away from his brother. Segun Olunloyo is my father's half-brother. Horatio was said to have many wives. When I say many wives, one after the other and one after whatever it is, Uncle Segun's mother was Horatio's wife at the time of his death. Uncle Segun feels that he has some part of this house, and my father has continuously prevented him from even sharing any part. He said that the house would be shared, the front, the back, the land, the rooms, between him and his two sisters. However, we live here. We've been the only one to live here until Elijah was evicted here in 1991 after they found rituals in her room, tons of it. Flying dresses, coffins, shigidis, all kinds of poisons. The letter I will display and you will read it. With that being said, we were still living here during the governorship. Everybody remembers during the governorship when my brother, the chef, Shola Olunloyo, found some black stuff that my grandmother put on my mom's car that looked like poop. He went upstairs to tell my mom, and when my father found out, he slapped my brother so hard. January 1984, Shola left Nigeria and never came back. It's now 30 years. He has not been back to Nigeria one time. He has never called my dad in the 30 years. He only talks to my dad when my mom is calling him, and my dad says, "Oh, let me talk to Shola." Daddy has estranged himself from every child. However, from us living here, my father built that garden that brought all the ravens, all the birds of prey, and all the evil birds. All the birds have disappeared since Wednesday when I started my spirituality, when he said I'm next to die. I had to break his curse. None of them knew what spirituality is about because they're religious or they're ritualist. My mother's religious, my father's ritualist. It's two different things to be religious and spiritual. But my spirituality is very big to the point that it can weaken a ritualist. And that's what I did. Birds have gone, everything's clear, and I'm now free. When I made the declaration on Twitter yesterday, it wasn't just a declaration. The police commissioner is confused, wants the Olubadan and some big elders to get involved. Many of the elders that would get involved don't want to be involved because of what I'm saying, and they're a little scared and they want to distance themselves from my dad because of Ronke Olunloyo, this young hoe that my father took from a long time ago and introduced my father to more occult stuff. My father's mother, my grandmother, was already in the occult world, and Ronke introduced my dad to more. Ibefun, near Ijebuode, where they drink blood and bathe in blood. Many of my siblings have been there. Oyeleke went there with daddy. They did not tell mommy. They killed Oyeleke. Tayo's accident. So many things. Yemi went there. She said they made her bathe with blood. Nothing's happened to her so far. But KJ's brother, and he went there, and look what happened to my son, what I went through with him in autism and all that stuff. The blood are human blood. They're not cow or goat blood. Believe me. The children or the humans that they sacrifice for all this stuff that my father is going to patronize with ritualists, may they rest in peace. I would sell my documentary, my audiobook, to raise enough money to open a child protection agency. I'm going to protect every child in Nigeria from torture, from ritualism, and all these things that has destroyed our society. Yes, we're Africans, but we don't have to live in the occult. The Americans have the occult too. They have cults and all kinds of weird stuff. If you've ever heard of Salem witches, go and Google it. But must we be in that world? Even Halloween, that some Americans celebrate. Beyond the candy and all the snacks that the children dress up, there's an occult part of Halloween. There are people who call themselves gothic people. It's not Halloween, but they're wearing black lipstick, black everything, black nail polish. Witchcraft exists. Let us change the world. I want to be the voice. I've made myself the self-proclaimed voice against ritualism in Nigeria. Shofunke came in here this morning to pack Daddy's CDs. In front of the living room, we have a television, big screen, CD player. We have a turntable, CDs that my father played since we were young, classical music. Today, Funke packed everything away, including the DSTV decoder. Everything was gone. Everything. We don't have DSTV now anymore in this house. I will get another cable or another DSTV thing hooked to here. However, we have to move on. We are free. We have to move on somehow. We have to move on. Chapter 7 of Daddy Dearest ends with me saying, I'm glad he's gone. Ronke said to City People magazine that my father left us. My father said to the police commissioner that we kicked him out and we took the keys from him. When he in fact came here and took the keys from us and sat down in the car trying to escape, and we detained him until he gave us the keys back. But I made it official that he's gone and he's never coming back in here. He was here 2 days ago in his office in the front, and Mr. Idowu, our helper, asked if he was going to come into the house. He said, no, Kemi's there. I'm now forced that he's scared of. Myself and Ayobami, he is scared of. Ayobami was the baby throughout all this time and didn't know much, but they've tried everything on him. He would not budge. For some reason, I have now found out why my father did not let us come home. It was not us. It was me and Ayobami. Don't come home. Don't come home. Won't buy you, cutie. Won't buy you. Don't come home. They're killing people. Abacha is killing a lot of people. Abacha is killing Abacha. My father was working for the same Abacha. He went to the confab. He went for medical treatment. Abacha gave him money for the medical treatment. Abacha gave him money for the confab. He took back in the confab. Wale Awolowo was his roommate. My father has contradicted himself in so many things. Why he did not want me to come home in the 90s, I was in America 22 straight years, was because he was deep, deep, deep in ritualism, and they had told him that 2 of his children are going to be extremely more powerful, and that's me and Ayobami. Chapter 8 of Daddy Dearest will be coming up soon. It's next. I'm Kemi Olunloyo. Follow me at HNN Africa, World News for Nigeria, and we'll see you in Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is about the snake, the bird, and the chicken. Things that they have used for the occult in my house. This morning when my father's stuff was moved, the moving van, there were lots of things I found behind all the DVDs. I wasn't surprised finding them there because they were already on the table when he left for London. We cleaned them all up. Bottles and bottles of powdery stuff. I have no idea what they were. My mother said they are charms and ritualistic stuff that his so-called spiritualist Jafar or something, some guy called Jafar that comes here, that Jafar was giving him for his health. Some of them were inside his medicines. It's really, really a shame. And I think I spoke about the medicine thing that Runke was getting prescriptions from Chicago doctors for my father. These doctors were not seeing my father. Illegal prescriptions filled at Walmart pharmacy. Everybody tried to kill my father. Everybody tried to poison my father. On the day my father was taken to the airport, while he was sedated, Jafar was in the car with Korede and the driver. And there was 10 million inside that car. for his treatment. By the time they got to London, 3 million was missing. Who took the money? Korede or Jafar? The police chief has to investigate. Everybody using him left and right, but he couldn't see that. He couldn't see his family. He was blinded by rituals. This morning I found some of those powdery things inside the case and, the bookshelves. Daddy, 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 the end is near. God bless you. Hello, this is Kemi Olunloyo, and this is Chapter 8 of Daddy Dearest, the story of my father, Victor Malu Olunloyo, hashtag Olunloyo 80, the way I remember him, after all these years of abuse, torture, as well as rituals. Every one of you saw him differently. And when you come to me and say, did your father actually do these things to your brother and everything? And I tell them, yes. They were secrets that weren't even allowed to be told. But it waited till I was 50, 51 before I could really tell the world the pain that I was suffering. In this chapter, I'm going to tell you about the chicken, the snake, and the bird. And what's this about animals? So many rituals were going into our house and out. Between my aunts, Mrs. Bisi Akbankwa, and my dad, there were all kinds of strange things going on. One day we woke up, there was a chicken in our compound. It was black. The chicken was just going about its own way every day. But we know we don't have chickens. We weren't exactly raising any chickens. What was going on was this. This chicken would retire at night and it would stay in a tree that was opposite my father's room. Something was strange. And I looked at this chicken. Where my father sits in the living room, there are his books there and his medicines and things. The chicken was always trying to get inside the living room when the window opened. We opened the window every day and the chicken would jump and it was inside the house. And my son will say, Mom, the chicken is inside the parlor. What? At that point, we decided that, whose chicken is this anyway? What a nuisance. The only place where chicken sound was next door. Our neighbor, Iyawali. I went upstairs to the top of the building where I can get a good view of Iyawali's house. And I asked her, do you have a black chicken? Are you missing any chickens? She said they weren't missing any chickens. And I said, there's a black chicken here and it's a female. It's trying to lay an egg in our living room. Every time we shoo it away, it's back. It was clocking. Click, 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 click. And he wanted to lay an egg. But listen, this is a chicken that's been in our compound for almost 30 days. There is no rooster to actually mate with it. So why is it trying to lay an egg inside and not outside? That's when I saw spiritual things. I began to video the chicken as we were shooing it out 5 times. Then I told my mom, I said, there's a chicken in the compound. She said she's seen it, but nobody knows whose chicken it was. At this point, when Iyawali said it was not our chicken, I now decided that we catch the chicken and we kill it. The driver, the helpers, my mom asked them to chase the chicken. This was the good part. Catching a small, tiny chicken will take 1 hour. And I was videotaping the men trying to catch it. It'll hide in the hedges. It'll do all kinds of, oh my God, tricks. Finally, they caught the chicken. They bashed its head and it died. And then they took it to the back of the house and burned it. As it was burning, it was just shaking in a funny way. It had already laid that egg, but outside, and the egg broke. I'm very superstitious about stuff like that. Where did it break? Was it next to somebody's property? The whole bottom line was that we don't know who that chicken was. I woke up the next day in a nightmare, and what did I see? It was my grandmother inside the chicken. And I thought, oh my God, let me wake up. And I said my grandmother was inside the chicken. The apparition came to me. All I know is that I don't know what they were doing here. But years before that, in the 90s, my brother Ayobami came home. And we opened our windows. This is a 1948 house. We open our windows and we sit down in our living room. And when it's 5, we turn everything off because there are no nets. It's an old-fashioned house, 66-year-old. When all of a sudden a snake was at the window. Snake wasn't moving to advance inside or outside. It was just sitting on the window. And the snake was swirling around, putting his fangs out. And he said, oh my God. My mother was sitting there. I was like, oh my God, look at the snake at the window. My brother Ayobami grabbed a stick. His school's in London. And he was about to kill the snake when my mother said, no, don't touch it. Don't kill it. The carpenter, who we call Baba Carpenter, my mom's carpenter, an elderly man, then went and got some sticks and killed the snake. Because my mom didn't want my brother to touch it. Baba Carpenter killed the snake. And within one day, he became sick. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 24, 48, 72. Exactly 7 days before. Exactly 7 days after the first initial appearance of the snake, Baba Carpenter died. It was spiritual. Later on, we found out that my dad brought the snake into the house himself with help from his sister, my auntie, Mrs. Bisi Akbankba. She has always supported my grandmother's rituals. We've always avoided her growing up. But you know what? That's how we were raised. I want to believe that she's not into rituals, but when my grandmother's house was busted and that letter was written to my sister, in that letter my father wrote about my aunt, his sister. Bisi Akbankba is out of her mind. Obviously, she was supporting her mother. The chicken was also brought in here by my aunt. She walked in through the gate with some kids, and the kids just dropped the chicken. She traffics kids from Togo, and one of them actually takes care of my grandmother when she was alive, 7, 8 years old. I was concerned about the small children being used for house girl and house boys. But when the kids started saying, oh, they carry chickens around with her, that was it for me. Whatever you guys are doing, you're trying to destroy other people, and you think we wouldn't know. A chicken, a snake, and now the bird. What's the role of the bird in all this? My brother Tayo has to go out to the bathroom so they can give him a bath. And they open the door wide. We've been opening the door wide for years to take that wheelchair out with Tayo in it. When all of a sudden a big, huge black bird flew inside the house. Let me tell you, this house is a needle in a haystack. You don't want a bird to fly inside the entire house, and then you have to look every room, every corner. All I just saw was, from my room, a bird flew to my father's desk out here in the hallway. It circled that area 4 times. Why would a bird circle an area 4 times when there's a lot of space and it can run and fly out again? And you could see the exit. The bird just circled my father's area 4 times. Then it shit on the wall. It pooped on the wall so it can drop on his desk. Green poop. As soon as it pooped, it now flew out. It was so fast. Blackbird, 4 circles, and it just flew out. When my mother came, I said, this is what happened. And we asked Mr. Idowu to clean the poop, but not use his hands because you don't know what these things are. My mother started saying, oh, you'll never succeed, you people. You would never succeed if you try something. Only thing I could decipher from that bird was that it circulated my father's desk 4 times. And the only thing that relates to 4 is his birthday is in the 4th month of the year, April. My father will be 80 on April 14. It's amazing what has happened. And that's what ended the chicken. The bird and the snake. Daddy Dearest continues in chapter 9, which will be mostly audio supplements. Audio supplements means conversation that happened between my dad, his concubine Ronke, everything that vindicates me that I stole his money for medical treatment or I poisoned him. Conversations with Ronke saying someone gave him Lagatin and the 4th dose will kill him when I did not give him the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd dose. And of course, the money, with Ronke saying that the money for my father's medical treatment is on him and it's perfectly fine. And then the one on mommy's side is also perfectly fine. So who stole what? Then she changes her mind. I tell city people that I stole his money and connived with my mother. My father said I poisoned him because Ronke coerced him to saying I poisoned him. Ronke will get prescriptions from my father for invasive prostate drugs, and the doctors have not seen my father. So when I took over my father's health in October, I decided to start examining all the medications and the piles of stuff. And what did I find out? There was so many prescription drugs that was not prescribed for my father. Okay, Nigeria, you don't prescribe stuff. But when you have Proscar with a label for Walmart pharmacy on it, and it's coming from Chicago, there becomes a problem. Big problem. Dispensing prescriptions without a prescription, or dispensing prescription without even seeing a patient, or giving a prescription to a patient who does not even exist, or giving a prescription to a patient you did not see. I plan to follow up with the Chicago Medical Association, the Board of Pharmacy, and Walmart Corporate. It's a big problem here. When I take this international, I can teach this woman a lesson for what she has said about me trying to poison my father. Because I did not try to poison my father. I never administered the first, second, or third dose. A doctor administered the first. Second and third dose between Korede, my dad's PA, and herself, and the lies they do say, the police commissioner got to interview and question them. I have a photo of the medicines she got from Chicago. I have them as exhibit on facebook.com/HNNAfrica and a video of them. I also have an audio in the audio supplement of my aunt, Mrs. Balogun. My dad has 3 sisters. Mrs. Balogun, the oldest sister, saying that my father is apologizing for saying I poisoned him and I was a fake pharmacist. And in that audio, you will hear Mrs. Balogun asking me to forgive my father, and Daddy even asking me to forgive him. After doing all that apology, Ronke now tells City People magazine that I tried to poison him, not even knowing the man has actually apologized for saying that already. It's amazing. You're going to enjoy it. Chapter 8. The audio supplement is coming on Daddy Dearest. I'm Kemi Olunloyo at HNN Africa on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and possibly every social media. I hope you enjoyed this documentary. It has a lot to learn on. I'm not going to give a lot of time to one aspect of the documentary, but if there has to be new information, I'm going to make it a supplement. Tokunbo Aboderi, I don't know who she is. I've never met her, but she claims to know everything about me. She even knows that I wet the bed in secondary school. Can you believe it? Half the time I was not even in boarding school. She now wrote that my father tried to date her in the 80s, and her mother said don't date him because of his mother's a ritualist. Not knowing I was watching her page through a friend, she posted that she actually was my father's girlfriend, and my father took her to the blood ritualist as well. Very horrible woman. She called me a disgrace to the family name, trying to mess up my father's name. Who's the disgrace? You write all that in a tweet. Tokunbo Aboderi owns a blog, and she calls herself a television personality in Ireland. She's nobody. All these girls are after is money, power, and everything. No trust, no dignity, nothing. And Tokunbo Aboderi continued to insult me and my mother on Twitter and all that, but I didn't pay her no mind. I will bring her blog down if she doesn't take my video down. That's really all that caused that. She terrorized me in 2009 on Facebook, and I gave it right back to her. She has not been able to say a word. But in 2015, almost 9 years later, she starts again, and she's so proud that she was my father's whore when he was married. Can you believe this, people? That's what I get when you're moving with these fools, disgusting urchins. Daddy Dearest will end very soon on chapter 9, the audio supplement. Today my father moved out his stuff. His stuff has already been moved out, but my sister came in and packed all his music, his CDs, everything that's electronic. So the house is getting emptier, and they moved it to where he stays with his concubine, Kemi Olunloyo. I'm only calling her that for that sake. She doesn't have a marriage license, married to my dad. God forbid he dies now. I'm still God forbidding. Meanwhile, he is telling me that I'm going to die next. If he dies, the state will honor him for what he's done. I'm not going to honor him. But the events with a governor's death, and Oyo State has had its fair share of dead governors. Ishola, Bolaige, Lamadishino. They do their national tribute, the House of Assembly tribute, and Liberty Stadium tribute. Ronke will not be able to attend any of that if I'm alive. My mother's alive, and she said never. No one's praying that this man dies, but if it happens, she can know that she's in no body. See you in chapter 8. I'm Kemi Olunloyo. Chapter 9 of Daddy Dearest is my real last chapter, and then chapter 10 is what I'm going to name the audio supplement. If there are any updates to this audiobook, I will update them as they come. But for right now, I'm dedicating this last chapter, which is chapter 9, to my brother Kemi Olunloyo, the child that was conceived by my mother at 42 when I was 18. When Daddy was governor, my mother was pregnant and she had Oyeleke in 1982, right before the governorship. Oyeleke was a baby. He was 1 year old by the time Daddy became governor. He was a baby. He was a sweetheart. Oyeleke died at 17. He had a mysterious accident in London where he was hit by a car, a speeding driver. Beyond that, my brother had spiritual things happen to him. The big mango at the back of the house is called Oyeleke's mango tree. Since my brother planted that tree some 1994, 20 years ago, after he died, that tree never bore any fruits anymore. It's a useless tree, and I would love it cut down. My brother was used by my father for rituals. Right before Oyeleke traveled, because he died 34 days after he arrived in London. Right before he traveled to go to school abroad, what he's always wanted. Oyeleke went out with my dad. They took my brother to Ronke's house. My mom said they killed my son. Ronke took my brother to Ibefun with my father. They did not tell my mom, but Oyeleke went abroad and he died. On the day Oyeleke traveled, the car broke down near the express. They couldn't even get into the express. They came back home 3 times. That's what my dad says. Because the car kept breaking down 3 times. Is that not a sign that he shouldn't go? But he had to. My poor brother was little baby, about 2 or 3 years old. When my grandmother was living here, Alaja got mad at my father because she controlled him in the rituals. And they had an argument. My grandmother grabbed a kettle. This is exclusive. The kettle of water was thrown on my father's back. Honey, if you get access to my father's back like I do, because I have to rub his back with a lot of shea butter and rubs for his arthritis and pain, elderly back pain. When I used to do all that in November, December last year, 2014, all that came with elderly stuff. I can see those scars. I never knew that Dad had those scars. And then Mommy told me the story when I was abroad in America of what happened that night. My father screamed downstairs. Alaja poured hot water on my dad. They rushed my dad to the UCH hospital. When they got to UCH, what happened next would shock you. They wanted to cover it up. They did not say my grandmother poured the hot water on him. Instead, they said Oyeleke was playing and he accidentally tripped the hot water. My baby brother was accused of throwing the hot water on my dad's back. They used my baby brother to get away with murder. All right. And then there was the time when they had money in my dad's room in the house. And one of the guys helping us out here in those days, Audu, they say it was an inside job that Audu called the thieves to come. Thieves enter our compound, and they actually went straight to my dad's room to get the money. In the morning, my father called the police. It was my brother Oyeleke that they arrested. My brother was only 15, and they said that it's usually the children of these prominent figures that steal their money. Where was my father when they were arresting Oyeleke? Did he ask them to arrest Oyeleke? Oyeleke was a teenager going to Adesoye College, a very high esteemed school, doing well in school, getting ready to go to school in England. My mother said, "You're not taking my child out of here to any cell or any prison." Because my father was pissed off, he asked police to question my brother and interrogate him when it was really my father's associates that did this. Oyeleke suffered that. The need to be quietly arrested and locked up and interviewed. The fact that you said he was the one that threw the hot water on your daddy, you will never, ever see the light of day again. You tortured my brother. You tortured Oyeleke by lying on him. He's gone now. You took him to bathe in blood, drink human blood, whatever you do there. His soul is resting in peace, but is yours going to rest in peace? Still telling people they're going to die next? Oyeleke died on the 23rd of December 1999 after being struck by a drunk driver. On the 21st, he was crossing the road with 3 or 4 people. They were all struck, but my brother was the one that died and was brain dead. So now you can remember when I was complaining about brain dead, comments by Mrs. Jonathan. Oyeleke is gone, but we remember him today and how Daddy used Oyeleke with his fetish with Ronke. I miss my brother. I truly do. He was 9 years old when I saw him last. He died at 17, so when I saw him, he wasn't the 9-year-old boy. I hadn't come home for 8 years. It was a 17-year-old man that was big and long in the coffin. It was sad. Totally sad. I only knew 9 years of him. My dad has to go back and reflect, so please don't get involved and tell me that honor your father and your mother. I told somebody on the phone today, I said, don't give me that bullshit Bible stuff. If a father honors himself and his children, his days will be longer, not torture them. One person called me and asked me, I can't even believe this. I worked with your dad. Yeah, he's a torturer. He tied your brother to... yes, he did. Only thing we didn't have then are iPods, iPads, photographs, cell phones, or even cell phones with cameras. There was nothing like that, no gadgets. It'd been a different time. A portion of the proceeds of the money I make from this audiobook is going to go to my kids' foundation, where I'm going to establish a child protective agency like in America. We can rescue children and bring them somewhere where they can have a safe haven away from that abusive parent. With the help of the government and community leaders, it can be done. But I need your money, your donation at Kemi's Kids. And like I said, I'm going to sell my audiobook, and a portion of the proceeds are going straight to that. I don't want another child tortured in Nigeria ever again. Ever. It's going on around the world, but not just Nigeria. I'm Kemi Olunloyo at HNN Africa on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all social media. HNNAfrica.com is World News for Nigerians, and this is my audio documentary. Daddy, Dearest. #Olunloyo 80.